Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So Apple's earnings are out, and the next question is, are they good or bad? And I'm going to tell you, it depends who you ask. And this is a really good example of how the sort of Wall Street marketing machine works, and also too how you want to read everything. And I try my best to tell you guys the truth, the best of my ability. So let's just jump in, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is from CNBC, and you'll see why we're talking about sources. Apple reports better than expected quarter driven by iPhone sales, right? That's the headline from CNBC, better than expected quarter. Bloomberg, Apple beats sales estimates in sign. iPhone is weathering slump. You're like, okay, fantastic, right? Apple's doing wonderful. Then we took a look at Financial Times. Apple reports weaker revenue for a second straight quarter. Wait, well, that's not so great. And then you take a look at more here. Wall Street Journal, Apple reports weaker sales for a second straight quarter. So it depends what you want to emphasize. Do you want to emphasize that Apple is beating estimates? Or do you want to emphasize that Apple is, down for the second straight quarter in sales? This is a important thing to understand, and I mentioned you guys before, with Wall Street being a big marketing team, is that if you set the bar low, right? If you tell everyone, hey, I think Apple's only going to sell, 10,000 iPhones, next quarter, and then they come in and report and they sell like 20,000, like, oh my God, they like totally beat our estimates, right? So it depends where you want to set the bar. And, according to CNBC, I'm telling you guys here that if you read more further, they were saying here, Wall Street's soft expectations, meaning that they didn't expect, Apple to do much of anything. Yes, they did beat that, so they were soft, but they had the bar low, right? But they also do report in the subtitle, Apple's overall sales fell for the second straight quarter. Some of the more details on this stuff, though, and this is where it gets a little bit more complicated because you're also dealing with currency exchange, but we'll go through some of these numbers so it all makes sense. Total revenues fell 2.5% year on year, right, to $94 billion. So revenues are down 2.5%. And it says here, Mac computers and iPads, while net profits were down 3.4%, right? So total revenues are down, and then you have profits are also down. This was the it says, steep declines in sales of Macs, computers, and iPads, right? So Macs and iPads aren't selling so great. And then again, net profits down 3.4% and revenue down 2.5%, right? Also, too, you can see here, so this person was saying, this was over at Financial Times, the finance chief, right, Luca Mastroianni. They calculated, I guess, that had the currency stayed constant, that revenues would have grown by 3%. So, they're saying part of they took a 5.4% revenue hit due to currency exchange. And so this is fantastic that they went ahead and did this, because you're talking about a company that is in multiple countries, right? And me personally, I don't want to have to go through, all of these different countries and figure out, Apple's difference in sales and also the currency changes. That's just too much for me to do. So I'm happy this guy is doing it. And that's according to his calculation. So if you guys see a different calculation on that, please share. I think it's an interesting one. The thing is, though, that's all based on, it's like this. Think of it this way. You could say, okay, I'm selling, more units, or I'm selling equal amount of units, but, because of the currency situation, I'm making less money. So I guess what you would show there is that, yes, demand is there, right? That's kind of what you would show. But the problem is, though, that in the world of reality, currency exchange actually does matter, because you still want to get those dollars in your bank account. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. So yes, it matters. Currency exchange, it matters. 100% it matters. I don't want to downplay it all, but I just wanted to tell you guys, it depends how you want to read that. And if you're an analyst, you could spin it any number of ways. You could spin it like, well, look, revenues are definitely down. I can see it myself. But if you want to say, well, did you count in currency exchange, right? You guys see what I'm saying? So it depends how you want to talk about that. Moreover, you can see here, sales of iPhones, which account for 54% of total revenue, right? So iPhone is like over half of Apple's revenue. That rose 2%. You can see right there. Also, too, it's an interesting one. Their services, I think they hit a record. So they're making a ton of money on basically people being in the ecosystem, right? So services, a division that includes App Store sales and recurring digital subscriptions, rose by 0.5% to $20 billion, in line with forecasts, but slower than the 17% gain recorded a year ago. So basically, right, so a year ago, they were making massive gains in this area, and I don't remember exactly the right years, and you guys can remind me on these things of, like, when did Apple first introduce Apple Plus? Was that just last year? It's only been a year now. And then what about, like, their fitness and the music service? I just don't remember. Where was that 2 years ago already? I remember they announced stuff all the time, And so basically, when they first announce something, I think obviously they're going to have increases in sales and that kind of stuff. But there's going to be a certain point when like everyone just signs up and it's hard to grow after that, if you guys understand the point that I'm saying. But the one thing that they were mentioning here, which I would agree with, is that for these sort of things that Apple is going into, not all of it, but some of it, maybe high margin stuff. So for example, I'll just use the fitness one example. Let's say you hire, 10 yoga instructors, right? And then you have a set cost for that 10 yoga instructors. And then the more people that sign up, I mean, it's just pure profit. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So whereas like something like, say, iPhone sales, the margins, matter quite a bit because you're selling so many units, but the margins are much thinner than something like, say, the exercise example that I gave you, where you could just hire 10 people, but you can ship that content out to numerous fans, and the more fans that increase, the amount of expenses doesn't necessarily increase proportionally, if you guys see what I'm saying. So I thought that's interesting. Mac sales down 31%, and then they were saying it's worse than the 25% decline overall in the PC market as a whole. And then they're saying iPad sales were also down 13%. I was looking at some of the numbers for myself, and there's a couple things that stood out to me. So yes, all the numbers that they, which went over are correct, so, right? So net sales are down. What was the other one? Net income is down, right? So from 97 billion net sales before, 94 billion now. It was like 25 billion net income before, and then now 24 billion now. But the things that stood out to me was, I was looking at this. So this is net sales by region. And it looks like the Americas are down. Come on, net sales here. And then Europe was actually pretty constant, which is interesting. China was down a little bit. Japan was down a little bit, but then the rest of Asia was actually up. So that would probably be like your India, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, these kind of things. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And you guys can look at these numbers for yourself, but I just wanted to point that out. I don't know how many people will mention that, but it sort of reiterates what I keep saying a lot, to where like in India and Vietnam are going to be important to Apple. We already know that Apple is opening up a store in India, so I'm sure they're going to say that on the conference call. But I can see here in the numbers, it's not BS. And also too, it's also apparent when you actually look at net sales by category. Yes, and services is pretty big for them. And when you actually look at the numbers, so iPhone makes up, just for example here, guys, 51 billion. So this would be sales, is your iPhone, and then roughly 21 billion is services. So just iPhone and services is a heck of a lot of money for Apple. You look at iMacs only sell like 7 billion, iPad 6, and then wearables, 8. It is a small market for them when you're talking about like total sales on the Mac. It doesn't say, because then the next question is going to be, what is the margins on phones compared to, computers? I don't see the margins here on individual categories unless I'm missing it, but I don't see it in the numbers that I have in front of me. But if you guys know that kind of stuff, please share. I think that is interesting and important to look at. But I would say most likely on your services, your margins are probably going to be higher. I think that's kind of a natural thing. And so that's sort of what's going on with that. And then if you want to take a look at what Apple actually says, which we'll also read. So this is from Tim Cook. He says, "We are pleased to report an all-time record in services and a March quarter record, March quarter record. It's not a year. March quarter record for iPhone sales, despite the challenging macroeconomic environment." So they got to figure out, how to spin this positively as much as they can, and have our installed base of active devices reach an all-time high. So I do think that is positive for them if they're saying they have an installed base of active devices. So all these people are using their platform and their services are going up. So yes, Apple's not necessarily going to fall through they're not like just going to go to zero. The thing is with the services thing though, and it doesn't really break it down. I'd be curious, like for example, how much of this is recurring revenue? So for example, let's say, everybody, bought like a game app, just for example, and then that's a one-time purchase. So, what if in the future that's not going to happen again? So how much is recurring would be, how much is subscription based would be my question on that. We continue to invest for a long-term and lead with our values, including making major progress toward building carbon-neutral products and supplies. And that was something I saw in their numbers as well, is their R&D actually went up. But yeah, I saw it right here. It says operating expenses, research and development, 7.4 billion, and that was up from 6.3. So no one else in the articles mentioned that, but I did notice that their R&D is up. And we had talked about that stuff before with whether or not their new like headset thing's going to come out. And the rumors before was that it wasn't, and then the latest rumors that I have seen, and who knows, it's changes on a daily basis, is that the headset is indeed going to come out and it's going to be $3,000, but it hasn't come out yet. So I'm just telling you what I've heard as of now. We can see what else they say here. Our year-over-year business performance improved to compare to the December quarter, and we generated strong operating cash flow of $28.6 billion while returning $23 billion to shareholders during the quarters. That must be their dividends. Okay, and then Maestri, that must be their that's their CFO. So why did the Financial Times? Because I read his name. Oh, okay, finance chief. Okay, they worded it differently when I read finance chief, and then I saw Financial Times. I thought it was them, but he works for Apple, so that's why he mentioned the currency exchange. So that's what's going on with that. That's why I was trying to tell you guys, like, it depends how you want to spin it. So then obviously the Apple CFO would definitely want to say, hey, if we did have the favorable, currency or currency constant, we're actually growing. That's what they say, of course. Okay. Given our confidence in Apple's future and the value we see in our stock, our board has authorized additional $90 billion for share repurchases. We are raising our quarterly dividend for the 11th year in a row. So they're raising the dividend and raising dividend by 4%. So not bad. That's what's going on with the Apple, guys. If you had just had to guess, or not guess, you wanted my just overall opinion on this thing. Yes, Apple's a legitimate company. They're making money. I would be concerned that the iPhone sales are growing like crazy. It's just something I told you guys about before. There's just a point where only so many people you can sell to. But I do think there's going to be growth in India. The other thing too is you want to know how much is this recurring revenue, that kind of thing. And also too, we'll just see what they say in the earnings call of new product categories. I know that Google just announced like they're going to have like a flippy phone, and there's been rumors that Apple will have a flippy phone eventually. Full disclosure, I love flippy phones. The Motorola Razr was my favorite phone of all time. If Apple comes out with a flippy phone, I think that thing will sell like hotcakes. However, knowing Apple, they'll probably price it to be too much, and that's what Apple does. So we'll see on that. So please share your thoughts on the Apple earnings. What do you think about this? And always appreciate you guys watching and coming back for more. And I'll catch you in the next video.